Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on when you're tuning in. Welcome to another episode of the Risking It All podcast. We have a bit of a different setup today. I'm joined by my business partners and co-hosts, Barry Jolly and John Conway. Good morning, chaps.
Morning.
On this fine, brisk Glasgow morning.
Nice and cold.
So we thought we'd take this opportunity to just reflect upon how our own 2025 went. We'll have a bit of a chat about the performance of the business, some personal reflections, and then we're going to touch on our marketing group's plans for 2026. So the first thing that I want to do is, John, you joined us around about this time last year in January 2025. First year as a business owner complete, mate. Still got some hair. It's maybe got a bit greyer. You're putting me to shame nowadays, but it's there nonetheless. Some personal reflections for you, mate. How has your first year in business been? Talk to us about the challenges, the things that you've really enjoyed. Just give us a bit of a debrief on how your first years went.
Yeah, well, and, you know, obviously absolutely delighted that we did have that conversation just over a year ago. It was quite a rapid discussion that we had, and we made an agreement fairly quickly, which was good. So absolutely transformational from me, from a business and a personal perspective, really. Working in the corporate environment in telecommunications and renewables for the best part of probably 5 years.
Wow.
Moving into a brand new business at my tender age was a bit of a baptism of fire. But my personal reflection really is that it's been completely liberating with regards to what you can do as a business owner with strong business partners. Not only from a motivational perspective, but, you know, just being able to do things a bit more freely, but controlled, with quality, and having end goals in mind is really good. So before that, you know, there was a lot of red tape, rigmarole, policy. Can't do that, can't do this.
You need to speak to that person, who needs to speak to that person, who needs to speak to that person.
And sometimes you don't get to choose your customers, your suppliers, that type of thing. And it sometimes puts you in a tricky situation where you're smiling, but you're not really. And that's been a massive change for me, actually. It's just having kind of the support of the 3 years to tread a bit carefully, but make informed decisions fairly quickly, or very quickly actually, which the corporate world doesn't really allow you to do for whatever reason, good or bad. And it's just good, you know. It's hard. It's hard work. We're all trying to steer the ship in the right direction, but there's lots of choppy waters that can throw you off, and wind direction changes like that, and you need to react, which is kind of exciting as well, actually. But overall, it's a great experience. Very, very fresh into the business world, and I know everybody says this, you know, every day's a learning day, but my gosh, it is. When you're in business, you just need to learn and absorb so much fairly quickly. You know, to filter that down into what's right, what's wrong, and just hopefully you're in that right direction. But I think the 3 years are working together with regards to self-checks and business checks, and just making sure that everybody's kind of on that path at all times. We've had loads and loads of ideas over the last 12 months, and some of that has to be reeled in just a wee bit. But talk about this later on the podcast probably, but we've kind of came through a lot of that funneling to hopefully come to a position where we kind of roughly know what the direction will be for 2026 and hopefully beyond. So we've done a lot of hard work, and now it's just a case of getting it polished up and, you know, properly taking immediate and effective actions to get things done.
Good, mate. What just to unpick some of that, I guess, because no doubt there will be people listening that are in work and have an appetite at some point to get involved in business, and they might have a view one way or the other on how tough it is and how rewarding it can be. What are the things that you've found toughest? So you've spoke about a lot of the positives there around autonomy, no bullshit red tape, you can just do what you want ultimately to a certain degree, but what are the things that you've struggled with at points throughout the year, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, the absolute biggest one, and I've spoken to a lot of people, or a lot of people have actually came to me over the last 12 months to say, you know, how was it? And one thing I would say is, and I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of people have spoken to me, but there is probably never a right time, an absolute optimum time to start a business or go into a business, because the one thing, the primarily thing that stops a lot of people, and it is, you know, prevalent in my personal life as well, was that you break away from a finance package.
You risk it all, some might say.
You absolutely risk it all, and you know, from day one when you wake up and you're not employed by a corporation anymore, that's gone. There is no guaranteed income. That's the absolute biggest thing. Does 12 months fix that? No, it doesn't. It's a longer journey, and that's probably that's a barrier to entry for new business for a lot of people, because it doesn't matter if you're my age or if you're young, or you got a family, or you're just getting on the house market, or you've got a house and you've got commitments. It never seems to be the right financial time for anybody to break away and do it, as far as I can see anyway. That always seems to be the you know, but I've got this, got that, you know, I've got other people to consider. Fine, we all do, but when you wake up on that day too, it is a different story, and there's a different motivation to say, well, actually, you know, I need to make this work, and I need to make this work with the people around me who supports me from a personal perspective and from a business environment. So the number one, the big challenge is every month is, you know, is income, and making sure that if it's not quite there yet, you can at least see what the plan would be if we, you know, put build that structure and that foundation correctly. The income will come, and that's not just a personal income, but that's also a business income as well, because that's paramount. It's a business income that then feeds the personal income. So, you know, all working together, and that absolutely determined focus to get things right. And stay focused. You know, if you look after the business will look after you, etc. And that's what we're in it for. We're in it for us, but we're in it for our families. All three of us have agreed, and you know, we're on the same trajectory. We're doing this absolutely for families. So that grit and determination comes from that end goal, is making sure that we can provide, but not just provide, make it hopefully life-changing at some point in the not too distant future, that makes all that hard work worthwhile, really.
Good, mate. Good. And you've touched upon a few of the more positive things, or things that you've maybe enjoyed a wee bit more. What do you think's the thing that you are actually enjoying the most? I know you're a keen networker, you like getting out and about and meeting people, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. What's the thing that you think that you are enjoying most about having your own business?
Well, you know what? I think it's just having that autonomy and being able to make these decisions on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as to what the direction of the business will be. I think that's the exciting thing, because you just never know. Right? You think maybe something's a good idea, and you test it and it doesn't quite work, so you have to rejig it. So that's actually quite exciting to me, actually. It's just manoeuvring things to make it better. But what is really good in business is, as well as, and this might seem not my right answer, but networking to me isn't a natural thing. I've never been a natural networker. And working for corporations, even at expos and events and conferences, and you know, these training sessions that you get sent on, it's never really been my natural environment, right? But when you become a business owner, or for me personally, I've completely flipped. I actually really now enjoy networking. I enjoy speaking to people. I enjoy asking about their businesses and learning from them. And from that gives me kind of a lot more confidence in what I've had in the past. And it just allows me to absorb what is right and what's wrong and what could be better just by doing those network tasks. So that's become enjoyable. So that's taken me properly out of my comfort zone properly in the last 12 months, is to meet people, to attend events. And for me, it has more of a meaning than what it ever has done before. Because again, it's back to you're building a business, and it is good to have that support of others and that guidance from others by helping them and taking motivation from them also. And it's kind of definitely a two-way street. So networking is definitely a two-way. It's not take. Most of networking is giving and building relationships. And then if that can be reciprocated positively back to myself and the business, and then, you know, that's a great thing, and it's a great feeling. So networking, I would say, is one of the biggest things in the last 12 months that has came to me that's been a very, very, very positive outcome. And hopefully we've seen some of the benefits of that in some of the partnerships and collaborations that we've managed to establish over the last 12 months that perhaps we didn't have, or we were at the early stages of establishing those relationships.
Good, mate. And another question I'd have for you, John, is I've lost count there. I think this is actually episode number 40, by the way, that we're recording now. I think it's episode number 40. So, but anyway, I've lost count of the amount of people that have sat at this table and said, despite the fact that me and Barry were the co-hosts for a long time and we're business partners, they sat in front of us and went, don't ever get into business with a partner. It's solid, you know, you'll disagree, it gets in the way you making decisions as quickly as you want. What's your viewpoint or experience been in running a business or a group of businesses with business partners? How are you finding it? So I know we're sitting right here in front of you, but just an honest appraisal on how you found it, mate.
Of course, always honest. It's always the best policy. I've been an avid podcast listener, reading business books, and, you know, fortunate to went back to university and did a business degree. And yes, those voices of other business owners and other people and entrepreneurs say that be very, very, very cautious with what you do and who you get into business with. I guess you need to pick your own battles, right? I'm certainly older than you guys, just marginally, I would say.
I think we're catching up at more of a rate than we should be.
And you learn, right? You know, we at maturity, you learn to judge people a wee bit. I'm not the greatest judge of people and characters, but you do get a feel from people and what their motivations are. I was fortunate that I guess I was a customer of you guys, your business, before we agreed to embark on this journey in this business. So I did get a feel from you guys as individuals and people and business ethics, etc. So that was kind of a reasonably easy way in for me to. You know, when I'm making that decision whether to go into business with you guys or not, that's one of the that was one of the tests that's already been done.
I never thought about that, actually. You've mystery shopped us beforehand.
Mystery shopped and passed, but that was a fairly short relationship. But nevertheless, I could still get from that what your drive and ambition and motivation and culture and ethics were at that particular point, and you know, so that in the background, you know, maybe subconsciously that was already there to say, yeah, I'd quite like to work with these guys. But just speaking to you guys in the early stages, I knew we had something. We didn't know exactly what that was, right? And that's still evolving, right? But I got the feeling that where you have came from and how you've matured as a business and maybe perhaps changed things a wee bit, it was probably the right fit for me at that particular point in time. So getting back to your question about getting into business with other people, you probably do have to be really careful. There's only so much kind of research you can do and due diligence you can do, but a lot of it is gut feel, and it's just being true to yourself and kind of. If I look at myself and I'd like to partner up with other people, I'd probably like to mirror that my ambitions and my personality and my characteristics with other people. I'm not saying we should be cloned and be the same, but at least have the same, courtesy, respect, ambition, motivation, family and friends kind of structure. And that's what I could see at the early stages, and I could see a quite a significant opportunity for us all to blend our experience and knowledge to make something that hopefully will be very, 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 very special.
Good, mate. I'm pleased to hear that. And actually, before you joined, me and Barry, as we've spoke about loads, had the benefit of being mates for 20 years before getting going together. So when there was ever let's call it a point of like potential contention, we're going to disagree on something, our organic way of just sorting that was, I think there was just like an inept gut feel that he feels quite strongly about this, so I'm just going to concede. Or he would say he feels quite strongly about this, so I'm just going to concede. It's like, it's not worth the energy. We'll give it a try. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I think you've blended into that quite nicely. Like, we don't always agree, right? There's three minds, three different thoughts on how things should be done. But I can't really recall anything that's crept up thus far where it's been contentious enough to go, look, lads, we're going to need to chat this through here. Really can't agree on what's happening or what the clear path is. I think you just get a sense that, do you know what, John feels quite strongly on this, and actually I'm not that precious, so let's just crack on.
I think that for me it just comes down to respect, doesn't it? Like respecting opinions, and John, you've got that in abundance, and that's probably why you've fitted in like a glove. Really, is that you know what you're doing, but also if you raise a point, we'll listen to it, and if it's the right idea, we'll do it. And I think, I don't know, sometimes I've seen other business partnerships out there and I just don't get that sense with people that they actually like each other more than actually listen to each other. But I can't disagree with what you're saying there on that one.
All right, and final point then, I guess. Is it a no regrets, YOLO? Are you glad that you've done it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. From a business and a personal thing, so glad that collectively, my family, Claire and Karen Sky, were fully supportive of this 12 months ago.
The board,
yeah, the bigger board. The board that you can't afford type thing.
I know we certainly can't afford to.
The proper bosses in the background have allowed me to continue with this journey because there is an end in mind, and it's just different waking up in the morning. You don't have that. You talk about a lot that Sunday night. Sweat. It's a Monday morning's approaching, and you're working for a corporation. And you maybe feel uncomfortable with that situation. This is different. This is not a Monday to Friday job. This is a lifestyle in many respects, and you only take out what you put in, and it's just worth those extra hours in the mornings and the evenings, bit of the weekend. Although we'd all try and respect our family life, etc., and holidays, etc. But it is a different motivation. No regrets. There's tons of hard work still to do. We all know that, and we just have to grit the teeth and keep focused and just get on with it. And we will have a successful business.
Good, mate. Well, congrats on surviving your first year in business. I don't know if it's. I dare say it probably is the toughest year that most folk will experience in business. So. Everything will be plain sailing for here on in, mate.
Hands off.
All right, well, we'll move swiftly over to yourself, Barry. 2025 complete. I want to say second full-time year from memory. We jumped in end of 23, so 24, 25.
Right.
How was last year for you? Talk us through your personal reflections.
I'm just trying to think, where do I start, where do I end? Feels like we've crammed multiple years into one, really. But I suppose just looking at that first year, 2024, when you go from full-time comfortable employment, that first year is just riddled with excitement, and what I remember. And John, you might have felt a bit of this last year, but it's exciting, and it's just me and you at the time, and my sister Nicola was part-time, and everything was just quite simple. Entered into 2025, and we just had some really good ambitious goals about growing the agency, and my biggest goal was letting go of all the day-to-day stuff and trying to remove myself for the business and operations wise. I'm still trying to do that to this day, to be honest, but I think 2025 has been a really good year. I think it's been a really challenging year. I think when it got to Christmas there, I was like, I just want to sleep to the 5th of January and then get back on it again. But I think it's been overwhelmingly positive. I look back in it, and myself, Brian and Nicola, we end the year, we've got John into our ecosystem, which has been a massive highlight of 2025. But we've also got a group of agencies that employ 10 people. And that's all for where we were at the start of the year. So that's been a big leap forward. Don't get me wrong, for anybody out there that was in my position for years, where you were just the business owner, the operator, done it all yourself, on reflection, it is easier to do that in a business. Hands down, in my experience, coast along, do all the work, make a decent living. When I look back at what it took to go from 2 to 10 in a business, that is hard. Hard work. But we're getting there. So, I don't know. In reflection, 2025 has probably been my hardest year in business, but it's been the best. And that probably where my takeaway would be. Moving into 2026, I'm just still full of enthusiasm. I'm probably back at the first year Barry again, 2024, when I'm full of enthusiasm again. But aye, it's been a good but hard year.
Good, mate. And what was the toughest part of the year for you? What is there anything that springs to mind where you just thought, oh my God, how the hell am I going to get through this?
Wow, that's a good question. I think for me, when you start to add other people, team members and salaries into your business, when you first start doing that, it's quite scary to a certain degree. We probably recruited people before most businesses would, because we backed ourselves to grow, but that initial interim period and doing the recruitment, we got a couple wrong. That was stressful. We had to let go of a couple of people. Not the nicest thing to do. The recruitment piece has been really, really hard, I would say. We've learned loads this year about recruitment. I feel so much more comfortable moving into 2026, knowing that if we recruit staff, we've got a much better process. But I think recruiting people is arguably one of the hardest things I've done in business. And it's even harder, in my opinion, as a business owner, when you're recruiting someone to do a task or a job that you've done for years. I think that adds an even extra element of complexity into it. And I've learned probably in 2025 that, just allow people to grow into roles and allow them to do it their own way. Doesn't have to be my way or the highway. My dictatorship ended very early in 2025. But equally, you need to find a balance when you recruit someone to do a role. You need to give them autonomy, but you also need to monitor them, which we've learned this year as well. We're no micromanagers, but also if you let somebody go and do whatever they want, they're going to do whatever they want, and that can cause challenges. So, 2025, biggest challenge for me has probably been recruitment. I've found really difficult, and I think there'll probably be a few business owners listening to me that might agree with that, and that's been a hard one.
And in terms of highlights, or what's the thing that you're proudest of that the business or you have achieved in 2025? I know there's loads, but if I could ask you just to pick maybe one or two.
I think as much as recruitment's a challenge, I'm really proud of the fact that we've grown a business to 10 people in arguably 9 months, because we were still small at the start. I think that's really, really positive. There's been a couple of other things along our journey that we've done last year, which I'm quite proud of, but they were really, really hard. I'll just whiz through them in the essence of time, but we've done a strategy change into video, which we'll talk to a bit more about this and video marketing on the podcast. But on reflection, at the end of the year, I realised that we'd built a full video production team in less than 60 days, which astonished me when I actually realised that at the end of the year, and I started looking through it. I was like, there's no many businesses that could do that. So I was really, really proud of that. The fact that we've pivoted into mergers and acquisitions, which we'll come on to as well, I'll save that till later in the podcast. But that's been really impressive what we've managed to accomplish in that space. Again, doing that in the middle of everything else, quite proud about that. And turning our directorship in from 2 people to 3, I'm really proud of that, and the fact that John's fitted in so well, and he's got on really, really well with the team, and he's helped us massively. I think to bring yourself in, John, and embed you in has just been massive. So I'm going to stop waffling on, right, because I've picked already a few up, but I'm actually really proud of them. And although I said that 2025's been probably my most challenging year in business, the positives vastly outweigh the challenges.
Mm-hmm. And you could probably add at least another dozen, items in there that as successes that a lot of people maybe didn't appreciate as successes, or the business doesn't appreciate. But all these small, just progressions just bring us to where we are today. But hats off to you. You've driven it. You've stayed focused and you've helped us all. But I completely agree. The achievements in a short, less than 12-month period of time to grow that team and have quite an established team with processes and systems in place, it just helps the business develop in the future, because the building blocks are there, and it is hard work, but you've stuck at it and you've had that vision, and it's working. Well done.
Thank you. And I think you're totally right. The foundation is so hard to get, but once you've got it, you've got it. Yeah. But equally, you mentioned something earlier in this podcast, John, which kind of resonates with me about when you're in business and your ownership and you can make quick and fast decisions. That's really, really exciting. But it's also quite scary as well sometimes, because when you think about recruiting up to 10 people, creating a video production team, moving into M&A, something that you're not used to, each and every one of those choices were made quickly, but they could have went tits up. They could have went wrong, right? And we probably made a few decisions that year that did go wrong, So finding the balance between making quick decisions, choosing the right decisions, but also if they are wrong, stop doing them and move on. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I feel that I almost made a few times is holding on to something too long, like a recruit or a type of marketing strategy or a service that you're maybe not delivering at the best of your ability. Just cut it and move on.
I think you're bang on there, and it's back to what you were saying as well, Brian, with regards to the 3 of us, assessing decisions or options or things that come to the table. They fairly quickly get dismissed politely, but just no.
Yeah.
Let's move on. And we have started things and very quickly retracted when it's just not right. And that is so powerful within an organisation.
Yeah.
Just kind of briefly going back to corporate life, the 3 things that you mentioned there would literally take years to implement in a corporation. It has to go through so much process and HR and directorship approvals and testing and stuff like that. It just takes for ages. And then sometimes you've just lost that opportunity. Yeah. Especially in this digital marketing business and the businesses that we're supporting just now. Sometimes it's quite instantaneous, the support that you have to provide or the opportunities you need to grasp. Because if we didn't do that and grasp that quick, someone else absolutely will.
Yeah.
Right? And we're just in that fortunate position where we are quite lean, but we're quite decisive in what we feel is right. So, without waffling on a wee bit as well, it just back to your points here that, I've established some of the key things that's made the business successful. There are lots more things around about that, but quick decision making is kind of key and critical to this particular business to make us continue to be successful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of being in partnership as well, is that, you know, people will completely flip this point in its head where they'll say, well, don't be in partnership because then you can't call all the shots and then you can't move as quickly. I actually think completely differently. I think, like, I mean, when me and Brian first started out, I'll maybe speak for you this time for the first time in my life, but we were very gung-ho where it was like, do you want to do something? Aye, let's do it. Right, 5 minutes later, it's done. And there was probably limited thought in between that. Bringing yourself in, John, and us learning as we've kind of got a bit more mature as business owners, as we started to realise that at the level of business we're at, which we're still small, we're still nimble, but we can't implement proper strategy changes or team changes or business strategy changes without an actual proper plan now. Because we're just...
It's almost like beforehand, if we made a quick decision and it was painful, that was fine because it was just me and you that had to carry the burden of that.
Yeah.
Whereas you start pissing team members off and they're like, what are you doing here? You were talking about this morning and now you're selling it on LinkedIn this afternoon and we don't have a clue what we're doing.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Like we'll make sure we don't do that again. That's been quite a key one for me this year. But I think just to summarise 2025 for you, Barry, I think you know, you often downplay not even necessarily the efforts or contribution that you make, but at the start of 2025, everything out with selling to a client started and ended with you. Everything we done, literally everything, for maintaining our own website to servicing our clients, onboarding our clients, communicating with our clients, offboarding our clients. I sold it, you essentially owned everything else. So imparting that or letting go of that for anybody is really hard, especially when you've done it for years and years and years. And especially when you take so much pride in it, like you were just never one for cutting corners. It was like, there's a right way to do it, a wrong way to do it. Let's just always do it the right way. So I think, mate, you've had a stellar year, to be honest. It's no easy letting go of that stuff. And there's probably been an element of us having to like readjust our expectations with team members as well, where you initially bring them in and you go, well, this takes me 10 minutes to do it. Why is it taking you 40? And it's like, well, they're no you and they're no driven like you are. So we just need to adjust that expectation a wee bit. So all wee nuanced challenges like that, mate, I think you faced into really well. And although it might have felt like it was the most challenging year you've had in business, you know, I'll speak for you on this occasion. I think it's set us up good and proper. We've got a solid core team moving into 2026 now. I know you're still unpicking, getting ready a few bits and bobs, but you're closer than you've ever been, I think, to getting yourself out of it.
Aye, definitely. I just think that transition is it's the hardest transition you'll go through, isn't it, as a business owner? And I think you two have really held me accountable, thankfully. You know, I would have been like, what the fuck are you still doing that for, Barry? There's 3 people in the office that can do that. And that's really important. That's why I really like, you know, think the partnership really works well. But no, thanks. I mean, it dawned on me a long time ago that I can't do it all. And you need people running about you, and you guys are paramount to that, so thank you.
Good, mate. Well, I guess I'll introduce myself and have a bit of a short blather about how my 2025 went. A lot of similarities to your experience. I probably pretty naively thought that whenever we eventually get team members in, I'll be absolutely sound. That plays to my strengths. You know, having managed hundreds of people in my corporate career before that, I just thought, you know, managing 3, 4, 5 people in an office will be an absolute walk in the park. And it's so difficult, so tough. You get recruitment wrong, you give yourself a hard time, then you get it right, but you know, there's then just shit that happens and you think, oh God, I've absolutely had periods in 2025 where I've thought life was so much simpler when it was us, a couple of laptops, an office that was smaller than this podcast studio, and making probably more profit than we are right now. But inevitably, I think in business, or in agency in particular, there's probably one or two paths that you can take, which is lifestyle or creating enterprise value. And, lifestyle is freelancing or ultimately setting the agency up around just making sure that you've got time freedom, there's the least amount of grief possible on your desk, and maximising the profit that you're taking out of the business. And then the second, of course, is creating something that can run without you, that at some point in the future you can punt, hopefully, for a life-changing amount of money. And when we decided upon path B, it was like, right, it doesn't matter now how tough it is. You've hung your hat on it, and we just need to find a way to make it work. So it's been a really good year. I'm also really proud of the year that we've delivered. Financially, we've experienced probably the best part at 80% growth again, and we lose sight of that sometimes in amongst how tough things are. But plenty of agency owners that I've spoken to this year are delighted when they deliver 15% growth. So a solid year for us. I'm still continuing to learn about business every day. I don't know that'll ever end, to be honest. But there's still nuanced things that sometimes you give yourself a hard time about and go, I should know that by now. I don't know why I don't know that. I need to learn about it. I think one of the real eye openers for me in 2025 and bringing team members into the business has been when you worked in corporate jobs and you were responsible for people, right? You forget about all the enabling capabilities that take care of all the bullshit before they come to you. Mm-hmm. So i.e. simple things like creating a job description, getting it on Indeed, LinkedIn, S1, wherever it's going, shortlisting CVs, interviewing, actually buying kit for them. In corporate jobs, kit just appeared. You just messaged a guy, or often it was just already there in a desk somewhere gathering dust, and you just gave it a clean and that was it. Yeah. We actually need to physically go out, buy kit, get that kit set up, welcome them into the team, get them trained up. But all of that whilst you've still got a whole bunch of clients that are demanding and want, service to be spot on. And so you're just spinning 1,000 plates at once. And I think a lot of time, or certainly, before we started hiring people, my mind was just, it'll be easy. I've done it forever. It'll just be a walk in the park. But you just forget about even training, when I worked in contact centres and you would get, in inverted commas, a new start, they came to you 6 weeks after joining. They'd been in a training pod somewhere, learning the ropes, making all the mistakes, getting corrected, getting loads and loads of intense feedback and coaching. And then they arrived at you still quite raw, but it's like, right, I've made all the bullshit errors. I kind of know what I'm doing 90% of the time, just keep me right. Whereas even although we're hiring people with tenure and with experience, they still need to learn a sector or niche. They still need to learn the kind of jolly media marketing way of working. They need to learn how to take direction for 3 different people. And we all have our own styles, and I'm quite direct, and you're quite consultative, and you can just see it sometimes. And also, I think that thing of making decisions really quickly and pivoting the business left, right. Some people cope fine with that. Other people, you can tell, just struggle. And you can see it in their face. They don't want to call you a prick, but you can see it in their face. They're thinking, you're a prick. I can't believe you're putting me through this here. So I think in summary, I share the sentiment. It was a really tough, challenging year. We had to pivot, into a particular service that we'll touch on in a minute, which was really, really, really tough. But like everything, I feel like that set us up perfectly for 2026. And then coming back to the point that you raised, John, we're recording this podcast on the 6th of January. 5th of January was the first day back this year for most people in business and in work. I was excited on the 4th. Yeah. I couldn't wait to get back in. Really enjoyed my Christmas break. enjoyed time with family, had a great switch off. I am one of these people that just need regular breaks. I don't cope well, you know, when I'm not getting them. As you'll probably know, I get a bit melodramatic. So I absolutely needed my break come the end of the year. I've had it, and I'm now nothing but excited for 2026. So, in summary, proud of what we've done last year. I think it set us up perfectly to just properly kick on and scale now.
Yep. Very well put.
Definitely. And just one last question on 2025 then, right? Maybe ask both of you this, right? Went through quite a lot of stuff there, right? But do you have any regrets?
Ooh. In business?
Just last year, thinking about all the decisions we've done and all the things we've...
Any regrets?
You know, it can be anything.
I'm not a very regretful person. I think a lot of people say I don't have regrets, right? I think that's bullshit, but I think everybody's got regrets of whatever it is. And a lot of people actually say to me, do you regret not doing this before you've now went into business at this age? And my answer to that would be actually probably not, because I've probably learned enough, you know, and this is maybe just the right time.
Yeah.
Maybe the planets have aligned, whatever that means, but maybe this is just the right time. If I've had any regrets over the last 12 months, it would probably just be maybe not the inability, but to learn quicker.
Right. That's interesting.
Right. Because there's a lot of stuff that I've learned over the last 12 months. And if, you know, I'm probably not a natural quick learner. It takes a wee bit of time. If I could look back and say, actually, if I could go back 12 months now and say, go and just try and stay a bit more focused and don't learn about stuff that you probably don't need to learn, and just learn about the stuff that's really, really important. That's probably what I would do. So not so much a regret. It's like, would I do something a wee bit differently? So I'd try and cut away some of the noise and some of the voices that we all hear, listen to the podcast and others and seminars and conferences and stuff, because there's loads of stuff out there, right? Everybody will tell you how to run your business and how you should be doing that, you could do that and stuff like that. So maybe regretfully, maybe I've listened to maybe a wee bit too much. Now going forward into this year and the years, I'd probably stay a wee bit more fine-tuned to what's really important and what really will make a difference to us, but the business in general.
Right. Very, very, very interesting way of looking at things. And I think that sums you up, John. You've got such self-awareness to yourself that you can identify that. I would have never have thought that, but aye, nice one. Anything for you, Brian?
There's probably a couple of things that spring to mind. I think there were periods last year where we over-invested and stretched ourselves too thinly. I don't know that there's many years that business owners will have where they don't reflect and go, we tried to do too much, but we tried to do too much.
Aye.
In periods, not for the full year. And I think as a result of that, we invested at times that we probably shouldn't have. And then the second one is I did quite a bit of networking last year compared to the year before that. I regret not doing that more, if I'm honest, because I don't know, I just had a viewpoint that, like, I don't need to be out and about. I can sell my service for anywhere, you know, whether I'm on Zoom, Teams, you know, Google Hangout, doesn't matter. I don't really need to be out and about, banging doors, speaking to people, establishing relationships. I can do it all online. But the real opportunity, in my opinion, with partnerships in particular, all arrive through networking. You know, content marketing is great and good for opening up those virtual doors, but nothing quite emulates shaking somebody's hand and sitting down and having a coffee. Now, there is a caveat to that, is that a lot of that can be bullshit and time wasting. I'm quite clear and direct with people now. I think that you know, when there's chats about a partnership commencing, that let's actually make something happen here, and let's no make it be one of these bullshit catch-ups that just goes nowhere and teeters away. But in an ideal world, I'd love to be getting myself to a networking event a week this year, because I just think the more you get yourself out and about and, you know, become that local voice for whenever you're thinking about doing X, I'm the guy that you call. I just, you can't do that virtually, in my humble opinion. So I regret no doing that sooner and more often, and planning correcting that this year. They're probably the two that spring to mind.
Aye, makes sense. I think networking, I think, John, you've opened my eyes up to networking more than anybody. And I was surprised to hear you say you're not a natural networker, by the way. Because when I came to my first networking event with John, I was like, wow, this guy knows how to network, you know.
Nah.
But no, I think networking's a great one. Very, very briefly, my probably regrets, I think the overinvestment thing definitely goes back to that gung-ho style that we had. We probably just need to, you know, be a bit more mature on that. I think my key takeaway this year is I probably regret not taking a bit more care of myself, if that makes sense. Because and I don't want to sound selfish, but I actually feel like I spent 99% of my year thinking about everything apart from me. Which probably look at how I looked at the start of the podcast when we started recording. Look at how now I'm probably a stone heavier, a bit more older looking. I think just taking a bit more care of myself is going to be a big thing for me this year, because ultimately my mindset's always just been really focused on just giving.
Yeah.
And I actually think if I look after myself a bit more, and not just health, I mean development as well.
Yeah.
You know, I love mentoring and coaching and developing people. Like, that's just a real passion of mine. But I couldn't tell you the last time I invested some time to develop myself.
Yeah.
You know, so that's probably been a regret of mine, not just taking a small portion of my time to work on that.
Well, you know what? We have a collectively responsibility for each other.
Yeah.
To allow you that time to do what you need to do, and absolutely me as well, and you as well.
I'm not giving you that time. You're in the office 12 hours a day.
chained to the desk. And see, to be fair on that point, the reason I haven't prioritised it is it's absolutely my fault.
Aye.
Like, it's no anybody else's fault. It's my conscious decision. You know, I'll bombard a million meetings into my calendar before I even think about going a walk or reading a book. So it's just a mindset thing for me. But I think it's important in business that you actually remember that, you know, you need to be energetic, you need to be developing, you need to be open-minded, and you need to have headspace.
Aye.
You know, and that's something that I've regret not prioritising a bit more.
I'm going to close that off, right, because I just noticed there's a book behind you, Brian, called Atomic Habits.
Yes.
Right. I've not read it, you know, completely and properly and stuff like that, but it's habitual, isn't it? Doesn't matter if it's exercise, training, mindset, whatever it doesn't matter. And it's like that. And, you know, there's cracking wee bits in this book that just reteach your mind actually how to do that and make sure. And I've done this in the past, and I've as we all do, you start and stop and start and stop and stuff like that. But what I'm going to try and focus this year is a bit of me time as well, and a lot of that's going to do fitness and well-being, all the kind of stuff. But my mindset is going to be, think of it as like you've just booked in a really important client meeting, and it happens every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is and what the frequency is, but it's a client meeting. It's in the diary. It's a client. Would you miss a client meeting?
Yeah,
I wouldn't. I've never intentionally missed a client meeting in my entire career, unless you've had to cancel or postpone, or something's happened that prevents you from doing that. But, you know, just refocus that habitual. Actually, it's a client meeting, but the client is you.
Yeah.
So here's this might throw out a wee interesting thought of conversation, right? I was actually talking to Amanda about this on the plane on the way home for holiday, right? Around this same premise that the three of us actually spoke about when we were in the living well in the sauna and that together, having a wee day, right? I'm saying to Amanda, how do I get this in? I need to get this in. I feel so much better when I just get something done. I get a wee dip in the sauna, the steam room, my heat's clear. I feel like I could run through a fucking brick wall. I just can't get it in. And she was like, how are you not able to get it in? Surely the whole point of having a business is you can do whatever the fuck you want. And do you know what it is? I think a lot of the times, right? I think there's like subconscious pressure, right? Pressure's maybe not the right word, right? But I just can't think of the right terminology there now. It's like subconscious pressure that because I know you're in the office and you're in the office and you know I'm in the office and John's in the office and John knows that I'm in the office and you're in the office, the default is I need to drop the weighing off and just get to the office because everybody's there, everybody's working. That's just what we do. It's like you get the day started, you drop the sprog off, and you go to the office. Yeah. Whereas actually what you've just said, right, if you create that new habit, it's, actually Barry's at the gym, I might do the same. Do you know that way? Yeah. Oh, Brian's at the gym, I might do the same. Or Brian's at a walk, I might actually do the same, or jump to the sauna. Because I just think, like, why do you get into business, right? We all want to change our financial lives, right? But it's time freedom as well. People want time freedom. But sometimes I think we all just follow the same pattern, and that then drives the rest of us to follow that same pattern because I see you doing it, I see you doing it, you see me doing it, and vice versa. So I don't actually know what my point is other than, like, you know, you spoke about it being habitual. I think it's just pattern interruption, and it's like, right, actually we do have a solid core team. The walls aren't going to cave in if you disappear for an hour. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, whenever you want to get it in. And actually, by you doing it, and vice versa, and me seeing it, and you seeing it, you might go, actually, I'm going to follow that same pattern.
Good point.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a switch of mentality for me, spoken by my personal opinion, where it's just like, what do you prioritise? Mm-hmm. But we'll see. We'll see how fit we're looking as the year progresses. But it's not just fitness I'm talking about. It's development and reading and knowledge and actually just...
It's mental health as well, mate. It's like, you know, avoiding burnout. You know, we all feel better after we do it. We know that, right? Or maybe I won't speak for you. For me, it's mental health and avoiding burnout and no getting to that point where I think I need a break for this business. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because you're actually looking after yourself.
It would actually terrify you if you looked at how many days off you had last year.
Aye.
I actually done that exercise over Christmas, and it was
a proper day off. Right?
A proper like break.
Time off, proper
so. It's just a regret of mine, but we'll see if I'm sitting here in 12 months' time going, I regret not looking after myself last year.
Well, new year, new me, mate. New year, new me. All right, well, listen, I'll move the conversation on. We spoke a couple of times there about our pivot to being a video-first agency.
Yep.
So, Barry, give us the context, I guess. How did that come about? You know, how was the experience making that happen? How did we systemize it? What position are we in now? Just, you know, share some insight.
Happy to, you know, it actually feels like it happened a long time ago, but it didn't really. You know, talking about the middle of last year. So the sort of backstory of it is we'd been aware of video advertising, or social media video advertising for a while. We're not videographers, admittedly. So we'd done our own thing using sort of creatives and graphics and offers, and that had worked for quite a long time. In the renewables sector, we've seen some other competitors out there that were, you know, really, really pioneering it. And you always need to take competitor case studies with a wee bit of pinch of salt. But, you know, we believed in what they were doing. We could see, you know what, this looks as if it's really impressive. And we had a decision point to make at that point. Do we continue to go down the way we'd been going, or do we actually believe that this type of marketing is the future? We made the hard decision, to be honest, which was we believe video advertising was the future, you know, and it'd been around for years, like years and years, but this type, we believe that, okay, this is just going to keep evolving and keep getting better. We either keep doing what we're doing or we adapt, and we adapted, which is not an easy decision, by the way. So, you know, right, let's go and do video advertising. Right, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. Myself and Brian sat down at the table and went, I don't know. What do you?
Open up ChatGPT.
I was like, what do you think we should do? And he's like, I don't fucking know. So we just brainstormed, you know, we just done what we always done, where it was, right, let's just take a step back. Let's think about what does step 1 look like and what does step 10 look like, and then let's make it happen. And there's nothing easy about that, by the way. It sounds easy the way I paraphrased it, but it takes investment. You have to invest your time. You have to invest in kit. You have to invest in process and systems and strategy. Because, I mean, we were talking about a first video shoot we done the other day. It was riddled with mistakes, right? We done the first 7 or 8 video shoots for free, you know, which is another, you know, decision, because that wasn't free to the business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of travel, a lot of time that we're taking out to deliver that. You know, that cost probably tens of thousands of pounds to do that. And it was riddled with mistakes the first time, but we didn't quit. You know, we took a step back again and went, right, how do we make that better the next time? The next time, and the next time, and the next time. And after 6, probably less than that actually, after 3 or 4 video shoots, we're like, right, do you know what, this is fucking working quite well here. And then, you know, the pivot was brought through wanting to ensure that we don't get left behind is the key thing. And we're happy to say that we haven't been left behind. We've managed to pivot really quickly and get some really, really, really good results, way better than what we were doing the first 6 months of the year. But that pivot is not an easy thing to do, because you're introducing a whole different layer into your service, and a layer that you don't have experience in.
Mm-hmm. I think, reflecting back on it now, right, around that like almost period of making the decision, are we doing this, are we not doing this, right, it wasn't driven in any way, I don't think, by belief. So right, that was mid-year this year, right, we had been by that point 14, 15, 16 months into producing a video-led podcast.
Yeah.
Because we know that video works, and video is great for engagement and good for generating inquiries and authenticity and trust and blah, blah, the list goes on, right? It was actually just more, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Like, how do we do this? We want, like, you know, cool, we've made the decision. How do we cobble this together? And the first few were probably ropey and reflection.
Yeah.
There was no real system. It was just, right, we've scripted out a couple of different angles that we need to go and film with these clients. And then once you get back to the office, like, there's almost that deep breath of like, oh my God, we've survived it. Like, it went all right. And then you get back to the office with all this footage and you're like,
we've missed a wee bit there.
No, even that. It's like, what do I do with all this footage now? You know, it's like, again, so we weren't the videographers. We didn't have in-house editing capability at the time. So you're then relying on freelancers, which cost a fortune.
That was a big eye-opener for me, how costly it was.
They cost a fortune because it's a highly skilled job. That's why Cam's always kicking about Brigton in his Lambo. And also, you've no real expectation on like turnaround time, quality, other than like looking at other videos and going, well, that video looks great, this one's maybe not as great as that, so we could probably improve it.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to hold freelancers, which were costing a fortune, to account around turnaround time.
Yeah.
I think we quickly recognised, probably after 2 shoots, I want to say, if that, we need this capability in-house.
Oh, 1,000,000%. And I think the fact that we'd done the first few for free actually really drove us to look at what we were doing really closely, because ultimately, I mean, the freelancer fees for video editing blew my mind at the time. Just nothing crazy. It was just, we weren't used to it. And it really drove us to recruit people in-house and get a system. But, I mean, I think sometimes at the start, like, I remember the first video shoot we'd done, I bought a drone. Never flown a drone in my life, right? I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And
it was a storm.
I was going away the day after I bought the drone, right? And I was like, I can't go to this shoot without at least trying to fly that. I can't turn up at somebody's house and fly this for the first time. And there was a yellow warning of weather in Scotland, right, for wind. And I didn't even pay attention. I was like, I cannot go to this shoot without flying this, right? bunged up the drone the yellow weather warning, and I spent the next 20 minutes chasing it about my state because it was getting blown all over the place. I was like, oh, and at that point I'm like, my God, what am I doing here? And then I actually managed to fly it back. Was that
And then you became a qualified drone pilot. I'll say it for you.
Then I done my drone exam.
Aye.
But it was points like that where it very much felt like you were back in startup mode, and you were back like, right, this isn't I'll maybe figure this out. This is, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do this well.
Yeah.
And we done right by people by not charging at the start, and then we just get better and better at it. But I look back at these scenarios like that, and you know, at one point we recorded a video ad and the mic wasn't even on.
Aye.
Stuff like that you learn.
Or the
early.
mic was still. I remember doing one and the mic was still on the last person. So then you film it, and then you watch it afterwards and go, "What? His lips are moving, but nothing's happening." And then a random lassie would start talking, and you go, "Oh, the mic's still on her."
Yeah. Stuff like that you can kind of laugh about now, but at the time it was quite scary.
And also, mate, you know, I don't mind talking about this. Like, the stakes were high.
Yeah.
We were in a position where the environment was really challenging around driving results using the method that we'd just been used to. It had to work.
Yeah.
We were in a position where it was like, we need to make this work. We need to find a way to not only film it, make it look and sound great, but it needs to produce inquiries, results for our clients. Yeah. Because if it looks and sounds great but produces nothing or produces loads that goes nowhere, that's still no use.
No.
You can maybe talk about this as well, actually. But there's back to sales, right? There's two sales kind of processes or concepts in there that was probably challenging to overcome as well. But when you guys started it, you did it kind of seamlessly to the rest of us sitting in the background saying, all right, let's see how this happens. But the first point to say was, yes, you did the first few shoots for free, fine. But then you had to commercially sell that package to a client. This is how much it actually is going to cost, and this is a package around that, and this is what you'll get. And this is quite conceptual, right? Yes, it maybe has been done out there, but it's still a fairly new product stroke service. And that's one part of a sale, right, is getting a client to pay money for that particular service. But the other part of the sales and the non-financial part is to get the buy-in from the business owner or the key directors within that business to participate and embrace and put their self and their staff and their premises and their clients in front of, you know, us to make that happen. So there's two quite difficult sales in there, I think, before you actually rock up with the camera, and the drone and everything else that goes along with it. Talk us about that.
I think it's a good way to put it. I think, you know, going back to doing the first so many for free, you know, we strongly believed that because we didn't feel that we were polished in any way with doing it, and we fronted that. Yeah, you know, we've always kept that quite paramount in our business journey, where we don't sell something that we don't strongly believe we'll be good at. So going through the free video shoots at the start, then when we actually came to getting the buy-in for the sale, we knew that we'd came through that journey. We knew we'd got really good at it, and we knew we had lots of good examples that we could put in front of people and go, look, this video ad here, you're looking at an EcoFlow solar and battery storage. You know, that's generated 40 leads, 20 of them went to survey, and it's generated 6 figures in income. That's the kind of thing we're going to be doing for you. Here's how much it costs. Yeah. It's totally different to when we done at the start.
I think what helped, because in reality, right, even if you're offering to do it for free, if there's no trust there, it's actually still a tough sale. Try to say to somebody, go on camera, let us coach you through what to say and how to say it, get your teams involved. What helped was that we were strategic, I guess, around the clients that we had multi-year relationships with and a huge amount of trust with, to say, look, here's what we're thinking. It's quite experimental for us. We won't charge you as a result of that, but we think this is what it might produce. What do you think? And even thinking back to that, I remember there was a period where, again, in my head, I just thought, the minute we start offering these out for free, like, people just snap our hands off for them. it was tough. It was really hard getting people over the line because you just didn't have any that you could put in front of them, as Barry said. But the minute you get one and you do all right with it, you put that in front of the next one, and then you do better again, and then you put that in front of the next one, and then you start nailing it. It then just becomes... No, it's never easy, as you know, but it becomes easier when you can say, joined us then, here's what we've done with them, here's how much cash it produced, you're exactly like them, let us do that for you.
There you go.
And then it very quickly becomes the standard.
Yeah.
So like moving forward, any marketing client that we sign will have a video shoot.
Yeah.
It's just that's what we do now.
It's just standard. That's what it is. Had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Trust, transparency is how it was kind of sold in the early stages.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gains confidence, and then you've got the user case, etc., that builds on that. But yeah, I mean, well, absolutely well done, and you know, look where we are now. You know,
I remember we also had like a murky period where even when you're starting to get good results for the initial people that have taken a chance, we then had a whole bunch of clients that were just in that murky middle ground where they're still in the old strategy. We want to get them on the new strategy because we can see what it's doing for other clients that have joined us. But it's maybe not quite strong enough yet to entice them over, and they're going, well, this one's kind of doing all right, so let's just stick with the tried and tested. And we're going, I know, but there's a better way of doing it. And so that was tough, that transitional period of getting everybody on board and bought in. But again, it only lasts for a certain period, a couple of months, and then you start putting real results in front of people, and they go, right, we trust you, let's get going with it.
But I mean, probably the hardest thing about the video transition and the editing thing has definitely been difficult because that requires a proper infrastructure. But the fact that, you know, John, you've been on the video shoots with us, but me and Brian have pretty much one of us has led a video shoot pretty much every time. And the logistics of that, pulling the business owners and sending them all over the UK, that's probably been the hardest part. It's actually been one of the most enjoyable parts. I've loved, like, it took me back to my days as a consultant where I used to just go about everywhere. I love that, going down, learning about business, doing a video shoot. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But every time you're doing that, you're taking the leaders of their business out for a couple of days away from their family. I'm sure Steph was like, Harry, you need to stop fucking doing these video shoots, man. Like, you're never here. So that logistical thing it's a high barrier of entry. It's not like making a decision, I'm going to stop doing Meta and start doing Google. You know, this is different. This is a big leap.
It is a big leap.
And fair play to anyone out there who's doing it as a marketing agency, because it's not easy.
You know, one of my big observations with being on the video shoots as well, and it's non-financial, but I guess it might be financial as well, is that whole relationship, you know, between ourselves and the client, because you're spending a whole day with them, right? And they're working with you and you're working with them, and there's this trust and this bond, and you get to know people much, much better because, like what you said earlier in the sales process, you know, you're meeting people, you're talking to people, you're networking type thing, but you're getting close to their business and you're understanding them as persons in their business. But then you can see the rub-off between the client and their client, right? And you get that whole relationship type thing that just makes it just solidifies everything and shows you that your end product is making a massive difference to your installer and your end client, which ultimately makes a massive impact to the end client who's bought the product and is benefiting from that particular product. But that whole building the relationship thing, because, you know, if you didn't have that, would there be a reason for us to actually travel and physically meet clients as much as what we do just now? Probably not. And I think that just builds a business, builds a relationship, the trust, transparency, and hopefully the longevity of the business will continue to grow because of that bonding relationship.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that spill through into results and retention. You know, like, with the best will in the world, I would have loved to have got out and met clients beforehand, but again, we just didn't see the need. We didn't think it was viable. Maybe in hindsight, that was a mistake, but we're absolutely seeing that. People that have joined us on the video strategy, there's real longevity in the relationship. our churn is pretty much non-existent. So that then puts us in a solid position to just kick on, grow next year. You know, we've got the team in place, we've got our editing system all created, we've got our editors. You know, the videography and directorship piece, I think, still needs a bit of work. But again, we've got a short-term plan in place for that, so that, you know, me, you and Barry are in the off to Poole and Southend and Sea and Newcastle, and if we want to go, it's because we want to be there rather than because we need to be there.
Yeah.
But overall, I think we all recognise it as being a key highlight of 2025. Set us up beautifully for 2026. Delighted that we've done it. And as always, huge kudos to our team for just, you know, pivoting as quickly as they had to make all of this happen. It wouldn't have happened without them. So moving on to 2026. We've got a couple of exciting things to discuss, but of course the bread and butter is the bread and butter, good old renewables marketing. What are we thinking for this year, chaps? Is it much of the same versus last year?
I mean, we'll still be really, really ingrained in the niche. You know, as you said, bread and butter, you know, that's what we've built our business around, and it's not going anywhere, and we're still fully committed to it. It'll certainly not be the same as last year, considering the transition we went on. It's going to be quite a bit different. Probably looking to work with less clients over a longer period of time than we have at any point in renewables. It's not about signing 20, 30, 40 a year or anything like that. So we're just looking to really, really hone in on this video marketing piece. Be open to other angles that we can help them with, you know, if that's another marketing system, strategy, whatever it is. But just really, really continue to grow that book is what we're looking to do. The retention thing is massive. That's kind of my side of the business. You know, the first part of 2025, our retention was very up and down. Since we've pivoted to video, we've never lost a video client so far. You know, touch wood, that'll probably change tomorrow. I've said that. So I think it's about steadily growing our renewables book and really getting as good as we can be at video advertising.
Yep.
And that's it. We've still got a long way to go. We're 7 months in. We'll just keep getting better and better at it.
Aye, that's it, mate. I think for me, you know, just building on that point you made around working with less than we ever have. You know, I've spoke to yourself and our coach Ross about this. Like, I'd quite like to eliminate the extreme spikiness.
Yeah.
You know, like signing 5 clients in a month sounds great, but it's actually really tough on the team, you know, because there's a lot of work involved in welcoming 5 new businesses in the door. I similarly would like to work with less, but just higher quality and higher caliber business owners that just already have something going. So you have that assurance that actually they just need a bit of what we're really good at. They focus on what they're great at, we focus on what we're great at, and everybody wins as a result. But I think it'll be an interesting year in the renewable space. I don't know that much will change in terms of, you know, there's a lot of to and fro in the old eco space just now. Thankfully, we're not doing much in that space. But I think 2025 is a really strong year for renewables in the UK. There's no signs of that shifting anytime soon. I don't know that the contractors or the MCS accredited installer numbers are growing quite at the rate that they once were, which is probably welcomed by all our install partners. But I'm as excited as I ever have been to continue to support the niche and support great businesses within the niche, helping them realise their growth ambitions, and just continuing to build on all the great work that we've done last year that's put us in a solid place to have a stellar 2026 in renewables marketing.
Now, completely agree with the sentiments. What I see is, you know, I've done a lot of years, nearly 20 years in renewables now, and I can just see a lot of stabilisation with regards to proper, good quality installation teams in the UK and a domestic appetite for private sales. And a lot of that, I think, is to do with the technology, not so much the PV technology, although that's got better and better. It's kind of stabilised a bit. But with the onset of battery storage and better battery systems and being a bit more affordable, that whole package, I see is fostered a new growth, a new appetite in the UK domestic market that good installation companies are focusing on, and we're now tapping into that as well, because they do need us to promote their products and services. And that's where we are. But being selective with the clients, I think, is good. I think it's good for them, because, we all now know, that all the clients that we have need to be right for us, and we need to be right for them. A lot of businesses just say, we'll just take everything. Shotgun approach, we'll just take everything. Yeah. That's not right for our business, and we know that. We, hand on heart, know that, We prefer to have less, but more quality, more profitable, and be able to service them better than having a whole bunch of clients that we're just not providing a great service to. So we know that, and if we can just grow our business to absorb more clients at our rate, then everybody wins from that. But providing that real bona fide good service to our clients, and giving them that top-notch service will give the retention, which is really important for businesses. And a lot of businesses forget about that client retention. It's so important. It's so important to keep that. But it then fosters new growth and new businesses coming through, because you've got that solid case study and user acceptance that you can then promote that to get new clients.
Yeah, I'd agree. And one thing I was just going to say about looking forward to this year with renewables, and we've already done it for 6 months previous in 2025, but I'm really excited to move away from probably what we did in the past with renewables marketing, which we would refer to as cookie cutter, rinse and repeat, quite systematic. That can still work to a certain degree, but I'm looking forward to leaving that well behind and really becoming, utilising the type of marketing which is very consultative and very, very much around the client and their story and their unique selling points and their customers, and really finding that balance between what the client wants to tell people and what their customers need to know, and bringing that to life. And that's what I'm excited about with the type of marketing we're doing. And I think our team, we've got a brilliant team now, and I think they'll excel in that type of marketing, because they're adaptable and they can really, really collaborate. I think collaboration is going to be big this year with the type of clients that we're going to be working with. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard. We'll probably be travelling all over the UK again. We'll see a few places, but it'll be fun and it'll be good.
All right, good. Well, we'll see what 2026 brings to the party in the renewable space. We're off to the races sharp. We've had a good first day back yesterday. Moving on, we wanted to touch upon our own mergers and acquisitions journey. So the context is that journey actually started on this podcast. We had a gentleman called Stephen Pettigrew who reached out to us to ask to come on and have a blather with us. It was a mergers and acquisitions specialist or an M&A specialist. And I remember saying to Barry, what's M&A? I don't have a clue what that even means. Had a blather with Jamie, his business partner, then came on the podcast. And then Barry and I, as you do, the seed was planted. And started thinking, actually, I like the idea of that being part of our growth strategy. So set out to just educate ourselves this time last year, literally this week last year. I think we were at a conference in London, learning all about M&A. We joined a coaching programme. And we, as we do, after arming ourselves with the basic level of education on how to go about it, set out to start looking to acquire other marketing agencies. First point of that was setting up a group, which is the AIC Media Group. And a second point of that was doing a whole bunch of outreach to marketing agencies in the space to ask if they had an interest in discussing selling as their business. And I think since we started doing that, we've spoken to well over 100 agency owners all across the UK, and every type of marketing agency that you can think of. Some weird and wonderful and crazy agencies out there that are in niches that you just would never even imagine to be a niche. And made an absolute shitload of mistakes, got close on a couple of deals, lost them at the absolute last hurdle. Hindsight, you know, we probably deserved to lose both of them just through errors or strategic errors that we made. But really pleased to say that about a month and a bit ago now, off the top of my head, we've reached formal heads of terms to acquire an exciting agency based down south. Still under NDA, so can't share too much details on it yet. We're currently just going through financial due diligence with that business, but all going well, we will be welcoming a new and fairly well established marketing agency into our group, which is really, really exciting. So that's the context, and that's what's brought us to this point. M&A will absolutely be part of our growth strategy this year, next year, and probably the year after. But over to you, chaps, I guess, just for reflections on journey so far, and then thoughts on M&A plans for this year.
If M&A, like, similar to how you started that conversation, you know, speaking to Stephen, who was, you know, great guy, very helpful to us, and then we started doing our usual, have a wee look online, and we discovered Jonathan J, and that was the event we went to last year. And, you know, I'll be honest, it's been a huge eye-opener for me. You know, in days gone by as a marketing agency owner, I thought if you want to do a new service, you go and learn it and then you do it. You know, the M&A space, you know, the reason that we're moving into this, and it's part of our strategy to grow, is that instead of us having to learn every new marketing service, we're going to strategically acquire people that already do it. But that first event we went to in Jonathan J was really eye-opening, you know, talking about how people can do it and how loads of people have done it. And since then, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, to be honest. We went from that event in London, we started a marketing campaign, we spoke to over 100 businesses, we've lost a couple of deals, as Brian said. He's always a bit hard on himself, probably made a couple of errors, but it just wasn't the right fit for the right time. We ended up in Marbella at an M&A conference run by Jonathan, which, you know, was mind-blowing. And one thing I look back really fondly in 2025 is not just about all the businesses that we spoke to and, you know, the one that we're nearing acquiring. It's the actual people that you've met through that space. So Jonathan, obviously, big influence with his teaching, but his mastermind group, there's so many people within that group that we would have never have met in 2025 if we didn't go down that road.
Aye.
And some of these people are just wonderful, like switched on business owners, can't be helpful enough. Some of them actually, you know, we do marketing for them. But, you know, sometimes I'll go into a marketing review with them and they spend more time trying to help me with my M&A journey than me to help them with their marketing. And that's just the type of people these people that we've been introduced to are. So it's been a brilliant pivot, full of self-doubt. Don't get me wrong, you know, Brian's done the majority of the discovery calls. I've done, you know, 15-20% of them. And Jesus Christ, for the first few, you're going on to this going, right, I'm about to speak to somebody that I'm going to try and buy their business. What the fuck am I going to say? Like, how am I going to go about this? Like, this guy's going to laugh me off the video call. Like, but you do a couple and you get used to it. And it's been a really, really good journey so far. Filled me with enthusiasm for the years ahead. I feel confident that once we do one, the floodgates will open. But I'm always an optimist, to be fair, so I'm always going to say that. But I feel confident that it's going to be a real strong part of our future.
Yeah. I think for me, the testing ground actually is knowing the acquiring, it's in the embedding. So once it happens, you've then got a new team and a new leader, and it's about how do we embed them into our existing group and existing team, and, you know, hopefully get a bit of harmony going. And that, I think, will be the ultimate yardstick on how bullish you are to then go out and do more. Because if it's a fucking ball ache and an absolute nightmare, you know, you might go, oh, God, let's just, you know, be careful or really selective around the next one or two that we do. Equally, to flip it in its head, if you go, that was actually pretty seamless and we've now got another business, another team, a whole raft of new services that we can sell to our clients, more revenue, let's go out and do another 10, you know, like, but it's an exciting space. And weirdly, when you get wrapped up in the M&A space, I heard Jonathan actually talking about this at one of his conferences. He says everybody in this room thinks that everybody does M&A, right? You convince yourself that this is just a normal thing that business owners do because you're in a room with thousands of other people who are doing the same thing. But in reality, I think it has grown in popularity. You see it more and more on LinkedIn and social media now. But you're probably in the kind of 5%. I was going to say 1, but it's maybe 5 now. Of people that truly have M&A as part of a growth strategy. Like they're actually trying to make it happen and not just toying about with it. But it's a very exciting space for me.
Yeah, definitely.
It really is, because
sorry to cut in there, but I was just going to say it was another example of something that's quite a high barrier of entry to get into. And I think you probably need to give yourself a bit of credit over there as well, Brian, because like I remember vividly when we sat in London at the event, right? And I'll not divulge how much it cost to join Jonathan's programme, but it wasn't a chump change, right? And small business at the time, me, Brian and Nicola. And the two of us were buzzing. We're like, right, this has got to happen. M&A's got to happen for us. And Brian just turned around and went, look, you've got 20 minutes to figure out how we pay to join this programme. And he just walked away. I was like, oh, fuck. And then I obviously figured out how we pay for it and joined it, and the rest is history. But we could have, like, just... I think a lot of people go to the events, they get enthusiastic, they leave, they get doubt, and they don't take the next step.
Aye.
So... you know, fair play, mate. We did take the next step.
Aye. And I guess just a wee plug, as Barry mentioned, we're now helping a whole bunch of other people in the M&A space with deal flow. So again, the short version of the context of that is when we went to Marbella, which was in May, after joining the programme in January, and word started to get out that we'd spoken to so many business owners in that period, we naturally started getting questions on how are you able to do that? How are you producing that deal flow? And for us, it was just, well, we done what we knew to do, which was, you know, use a particular method to generate inquiries. And then, of course, the next question is, could you do that for me? And then suddenly we had an M&A client, and then we had another, and then we had another, and another, and another. And before you know it, you've got 9 or 10 in the books. So, you know, it's a growing part of our business. But if you're in that M&A space, fully enthusiasm for, you know, growing through M&A like we are, but just can't produce that deal flow. Fire anyone as a message. You'll find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the usual places. John, what's your? I know you're still just getting your legs under the table and the old M&A stuff. You've joined us in that sense at a later stage in the year, but what's your initial reflections been?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First is previous experience in working for corporations. I've probably been involved in 3 acquisition deals in some shape or form. And first of all, it's really exciting. It's really difficult. And lastly, when the deal goes through, it's exactly what he says, is that, you know, how do we get that business into this business and make it fit? Because, you know, it's not just a financial thing, but you've got client acquisitions, you've got supplier acquisitions, you've got systems acquisitions. Everything then becomes, how does that get integrated into the existing business model? And that really needs to be done properly and right, or, you know, it could be really messy really quickly. And, you know, that's a different kind of planning stage. But being involved in that, excuse me, being involved in that and seeing the successes of that, if it's done right, it's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. But there's a shitload of hard work that goes in between that, you know, first acquisition and getting it onboarded into the company and getting it commercialised. From our perspective, back to networking as well, you know, it's only 12 months since you've been starting to talk about what is M&A, and then you've learned it and learned so much, and that whole community that we are now involved in, it's different conversations, it's different terminology, it's different financial touch points, etc. It's a different environment, it's a different community, and that's exciting. But it's certainly opened my eyes, but it probably opened your eyes as to what else is out there.
Yeah.
And how many businesses are actually for sale. And if we pin that back to the renewables area, we've experienced businesses that have went through acquisitions over the last 12 months, and quite significant businesses has went through that. So it is happening, right? But the more you get involved in M&A and the more people you're speaking to, and your network increases, not just through M&A, but the networking events that we're currently attending, you're speaking to different business owners at different levels, and you learn so much about that whole M&A environment and what potentially could be up for sale and what could not be up for sale. So just being in the fold of what's currently happening out there, I think is really, really encouraging for our business, because we know a bit about it. We're keen to learn more about it. We're in the process of just about having one under the group, which is a great step forward, and a great learning acumen to have. But it just allows you to then go positively the next step to say, as you said, we will be buying more. That will become. And what is that strategy? Is that strategy then similar businesses that can be folded into the group and it helps? Probably, but maybe not. There's maybe some curveball ones out there that's maybe completely separate. You might want to.
Well, we agreed before the podcast we were buying Cameron House as soon as it's up for sale. So I'll
Fits
see.
perfectly into market group.
Barry, you've got 20 minutes to figure out how we're going to buy it.
Oh no, that's again.
Right.
But, no, it's just exciting. It's great to be part of, and it just adds value to our services, our products, our finances for the business, and it's growing a business as well. It's adding more people to it.
Spot on, chaps. Well, we'll see what 2026 brings in this space. We're running out of time, but I do want to just spend the last 5 minutes or so talking about a new exciting proposition for Jolly Media Marketing that we're launching in 2026. So again, the short context on this, so it makes sense, is that historically we have always helped other business owners with their marketing who typically operate in that B2C space. So, i.e. a renewables installer that sells 15 panels and a battery to Mr. or Mrs. Jones, very much in that B2C space. But we started to have a door chapped, I guess, through probably some of the networking that we've done and a few other bits and bobs last year from other businesses who sell to other businesses like we do. And thought, right, let's give it a go. We'll turn our hand to it as we do. And results were really positive, and then that noise just get louder and louder in terms of the door continually chapping, and you meet other people at networking and events and they say, you should be helping people in my niche, you should be helping people in my sector. So we have painstakingly created carefully a B2B proposition that encompasses a whole raft of different channels, including things like podcasting, paid ads, email marketing, PR services, web development, proposition development, etc., etc., a few other bits and bobs. And the idea, of course, is that any business owner who's in that B2B space that are looking to grow over the next 12 to 36 months will sit down and conduct a robust discovery session, and then we'll determine, based on our experience, the most appropriate channels to activate as part of that marketing plan. And then, we go to task and do our thing and help those business owners realise their growth ambitions. So I think it's a proposition we're really excited about. We've spent a good amount of time and diligence on creating it. Probably a prime example of what you touched on earlier in the podcast, Barry, where initially you get excited and, let's go. And then you go, hang on, we've got a team now. We can't just be rolling stuff out without consideration on what's included, who delivers what, who owns what, what's the system for it, what's the process for it. So we've probably taken longer than we ever have with anything off the top of my head in Jolly Media Marketing to roll this out.
Yeah.
But very much now in a position where our doors are open. We do need to be pretty considerate about the initial number of clients that we take on to this proposition, because there's a lot involved and we want to absolutely get it right for them. But over to you chaps, what are we thinking? Are we all excited about the launch of our B2B proposition for this year?
I absolutely can't wait. And as you say, it's been well thought through, and it's been polished, and it's been changed and tweaked, and we have something that we can take to market. Go back to this networking and, being very, very fortunate that we speak to a lot of business owners and we understand their challenges and their needs. But, lead generation and sales and delivery is absolutely paramount to any business. And that's just a recurring theme, okay? Now, what we have been successful in doing, we have pretty much packaged that up and made it better. And instead of having that offering to a niche sector, we can then use that model as a template and offer that to various different businesses and sectors throughout the UK. We're really confident we can deliver that. And as Brian says, people were asking us for it. Can you do what you're doing in renewables for our business? And we've thought about it and said, well, maybe not. But, the harder that chap is and the more people ask for that, we need to seriously look at it as a potential business proposition. And that's exactly what we've done. So we've got a lot of inquiries. Maybe some are right for the business, maybe some are not right, and vice versa. We will be selective, but what we have developed as a business-to-business proposition is robust. It covers a lot of different angles that clients would need or could need or may have not even thought about yet that we can help. So absolutely, can't wait to get out the traps and start to speak properly to businesses within our network and new prospects to demonstrate what we can do for them.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, really. I'm excited by it. It's always been an ambition of mine. I've kind of always had this urge to develop something that satisfies a wider audience base. Not because we're pivoting away from renewables. That's always going to be our paramount. But your example, John, of continually turning away business and standing really true to renewables only, it gets to a point where you're like, that's starting to annoy me a wee bit. But I always wanted to make sure that we would not roll out anything in that space until we had the right people in the business. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy to say that the team we've got now are the right people.
Yep.
So we'll continue to stand true and not entertain clients that we don't truly believe we can help. But this sphere is just so untapped for us, and we've got the right people, the right skills, and the right processes to really, really make an impact. And I'm excited by it.
Yeah.
Good. And if any of those business owners happen to be listening right now, we'd ideally look for you to be already doing somewhere between £2 and £20 million a year in revenue. If you have an appetite to grow that, you're in an inquiry-hungry business, again, reach out to us. You can find any one of us on LinkedIn primarily, or jump onto our website, which is currently under construction, but still very much live, so you can submit an inquiry to speak to any one of the three of us about this exciting new proposition. So that feels like a lovely place to wrap up today's conversation, chaps. Well done and congrats on a successful 2025. And let's see what we can do 2026 together.
Indeed. Look forward to it.
And if you've made it to the end of this podcast, which is about 91 minutes in, maybe even longer than that, and you've still no subscribed to our channels, get it sorted. It takes 10 seconds. Go and give us a wee like and subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, all our socials, and we'll catch you in a few weeks' time for another episode.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks. Cheers.